If you're a SpongeBob fan, it's common knowledge that the show began to drop in quality after the premiere of the first SpongeBob movie in 2004. Seasons 4 and 5 are considered to be okay, but seasons 6, 7, and 8, they aren't funny, the animation is more stilted, and the characters are almost constantly acting out of character. But something I've always wondered is, why did this happen? How did SpongeBob go from one of the best cartoons on TV to a mediocre show that
belongs in the trash?
In other words, whatever happened to SpongeBob? Well, the most commonly known answer lies in the show's creator and former director, Steven Hillenburg. According to other members of the series staff, he had a huge influence on the show, and was its guiding light during its first few seasons. After the SpongeBob movie came out, Steve wanted to end the show, not wanting it to jump the shark.
Hey, that's my family you're talking about.
But at the time, SpongeBob was Nickelodeon's biggest show, and they wanted more episodes for obvious reasons.
Money!
All of this is true. However, many believe that Steven completely left the show after the movie was finished, wanting to move on to other projects, and Hillenburg's influence on the show in its early seasons was so big that the show couldn't be nearly as good without him. However, that's not actually true. What really happened was that Hillenburg became an executive producer on the show and began to oversee the production of some episodes. He was no longer directly involved with the series, and was also developing new projects at the same time. This is all that we know about Steve's involvement in the show after the movie, but to this day, we don't know the exact extent of his contributions. We don't know how often Steve commented on episodes, or how much his comments changed any of the episodes. We also don't know exactly how long Hillenburg kept this position. Many interviews that confirm Hillenburg as being this kind of limited supervisor or reviewing episodes are only as recent as 2009, which would be during the production of season 6. Now, I have a theory about Steven's involvement, and it ties into how the quality of the show declined even more between seasons 4 and 5 and seasons 6 through 8. I think that Hillenburg stopped giving his input on episodes after season 5, or stopped doing it very regularly. He may have had a lot of trust in his new team at this point, and believed that they could handle the show without much more influence from him. This may be why SpongeBob has had a very gradual decline in quality after the movie instead of a steep one. However, I don't believe that one person leaving the SpongeBob crew was the only reason why the show became what it was, no matter how much of an influence Steven Hillenburg had. I think that there are various other factors to blame too, including Nickelodeon themselves. Wait, Nickelodeon screwed over a cartoon through bad business practices? Never heard of that one before. One thing I find interesting is that after season 5, Nickelodeon raised the amount of episodes in each season from 20 to 26, meaning that the makers of the series now had to do 52 segments in the season instead of 40, giving a team that already had big shoes to fill more work to do in the same amount of time that they usually had, more than likely led to a lot of episodes being rushed, and not have the same amount of thought put into them as the earlier episodes did. It's also pretty obvious that in some seasons, the crew did not have as big of a budget as they did before. There's this scene in the season 8 episode Restraining SpongeBob, and it's supposed to be this huge action scene where Squidward is hurled around the Krusty Krab, but the animation here is so boring and unmodeled that it doesn't communicate the impact of what's happening on screen. There's a bigger emphasis on slapstick humor in these later seasons, but much of it doesn't work because the characters don't react as they should. It's slapstick but without the slap, and all that remains is stick. And sticks are just boring. Nobody likes them. Another sign of this low budget appeared in the episode 20,000 Patties Under the Sea. The very first shot of the episode recycles the opening shot from jellyfishing. As far as I know, this is the only time a clip has been reused on the show, with the exception of the lost episode. But there, clips were used to form a clip show, as opposed to here, where animation produced 6 years apart from each other is edited together. It's so cheap and an obvious sign that the budget was lowered, since they chose to reuse a clip rather than just making a new establishing shot. On a side note, I think that creativity was at an all-time low during these seasons. Just look at season 7, which has such creative premises like Plankton disguises himself as Sandy to steal the formula, Plankton disguises himself as SpongeBob's grandma to steal the formula, and Plankton disguises himself as Gary to steal the formula. All of these episodes were produced within the same season. Season 7 did give us the greatest SpongeBob character of all time, Zeus the Guitar Lord, so I guess it really isn't all that bad.
Hey, I'm Zeus the Guitar Lord. I don't have a guitar yet, but if I did, I would run a really killer one. Like this!
Another way Nickelodeon may have caused SpongeBob's downfall is being a bit looser with their restrictions. When a show gets extremely popular, it can get away with a bit more than your average show can. Why else do you think Gravity Falls was able to get away with death threats and intense imagery in its final episodes, but couldn't get away with a simple spin the bottle reference in its 8th episode? Since SpongeBob was and is Nickelodeon's biggest show, they were more than likely allowed to let a few things slide by the censors, which is probably how we got stuff like this.
Don't move it till I say. Okay, it's on my foot.
There's something wrong with me. Okay.
It all started when I was born.
I kind of understand why the SpongeBob crew pushed the limits of what they could do. I think that they had kind of a, if you can do it, then why not do it mindset when making the show. I can respect that ideology, but I don't think it was the best one to have when making a show that 7-year-olds are going to watch. I know that some of the older episodes had a moment of gross out here or there, but I don't think any episodes had entire sequences of nothing but gory imagery. Looking at you, toenail scene. I definitely got my share of hearty trauma from watching the later seasons of SpongeBob. I literally remember watching a rerun of House Fancy and looking away when the toenail scene appeared. Well, at least that episode made an impact on me, for better or for worse. Many different people were involved with SpongeBob's creation and success besides Steven Hillenburg, and quite a few of them also left after the first movie and moved on to other projects. People come and go from TV show crews all the time, but the crew between seasons 3 and 4 is almost entirely different, and I could probably count on my hand the number of people that stayed.
The gang's all here.
By the time the new crew came around, SpongeBob's identity was already well established. It knew what it was through and through. So asking a new set of people to replicate something so special and specific was just a bad idea. And instead, all of the new staff pretty much did whatever they wanted with the show. Now there's positives to making something that you like rather than something that other people want. That's what art is, and great art comes from that line of thinking. But I feel like the newer SpongeBob crew took that idea to heart and did whatever their hearts desired because, as I said before, they were able to do whatever they wanted. This would have been fine if SpongeBob was a show struggling to get good ratings and this new crew was asked to tweak the show, but the series was anything but unsuccessful, and to a lot of longtime viewers, they were fixing something that wasn't broken. A lot of episodes can be showcases of great creativity, but not very good SpongeBob episodes. A perfect example of this is the episode Face Freeze. The meat of it is just SpongeBob and Patrick constantly making gross faces, with a barely existent plot that just rips off the premise of the season 1 episode Hooky. However, if you look at this episode from the perspective of an artist, it's rather creative. While very disgusting, all of the faces the characters make are super creative and well drawn. They don't fit the style of SpongeBob and aren't very pleasant to look at, but I do have to give the artist some praise. This doesn't excuse the quality of the episode. It's still bad, but you can tell that the crew was having a lot of fun. I think that the new SpongeBob crew was trying to make the show something that it wasn't. SpongeBob wasn't about long drawn-out gags and Ren and Stimpy style gross-out humor. It was a simple show about silly characters in a silly world and all the comedy that came from that. I feel like if the SpongeBob crew from seasons 6 through 8 made their own show, it wouldn't have been as poorly received as their SpongeBob seasons were. Actually, they did exactly that. Billy Dilly's Super Duper Subterranean Summer is a recent Disney XD show with a crew that consists of many familiar faces from the post-movie era of SpongeBob. With the people behind classics like Choir Boys and A Pal for Gary working on this show, you would expect it to be a disaster, right?
Wrong.
Well, because it's a completely new show, it can be whatever the writers want it to be, which fixes one of the bigger problems of modern SpongeBob. I even think that this show is pretty enjoyable in its own right. Yes, it takes a lot of inspiration from SpongeBob. Billy's voice is kind of annoying. I'm not quite sure what one of the main character's personalities is supposed to be, and not all of the jokes hit, but I still liked it, and found it to be a pretty creative show that I would recommend everyone give a chance. This show needs more fans and support, since Disney XD did a poor job marketing and airing the first season, and while I'm not the biggest fan of it, I don't want to see Billy Dilly's super long title end so quickly. It goes to show that a lot of these people can be good at what they do, but what they do just didn't fit the style of SpongeBob. To conclude, I believe that SpongeBob SquarePants' so-called so-called Dark Age was a result of Steven Hillenburg gradually becoming less involved with the show, Nickelodeon giving the crew more deadlines and less money, and new writers that were given a little too much creative freedom, which caused them to make the show whatever they wanted, rather than something that was true to the spirit of the first 3 seasons. Unless I said otherwise, everything said in this video was speculation, and should not be taken as fact. All that I intended to do with this video was get to the bottom of a problem that I did not see an obvious answer to, not to attack anyone who worked on SpongeBob after the movie. I'm not trying to hate on the later seasons either. Seasons 4 and 5 are pretty good in my book, and I also like a few episodes here and there from seasons 6, 7, and 8. Plus, I feel like seasons 9 and 10 of this show have fixed most of the problems that the past seasons have had. Many episodes feel as though they were taken straight out of the early 2000s, and that isn't only because Steven Hillenburg is back. A lot of people who worked on SpongeBob before the first movie have also returned, along with a lot of talented new people who grew up on the original episodes and know the show in and out. The new staff also knows how to take advantage of the loose restrictions Nickelodeon has given them in a way that fits the show, which has led to dark moments that are more in the vein of Nasty Patty rather than one-course meal, where dark ideas are implied rather than explicitly shown. Plus, while Nickelodeon is still making the crew produce 26 full episodes in season 11, they've had some time to ease into that tall order, since season 10 only consisted of 11 half-hour episodes. You can make the argument that Nickelodeon did do this before, since they gave seasons 4 and 5 20 episodes and then increased the number to 26 in season 6. But 20 full episodes is still a lot to do, and the quality of work that's come from the smaller episode orders has been fantastic. Season 11 seems to be on the right track so far, though it's kind of hard to tell how good it will be at this point since only 3 segments from it have aired. Another positive change has been to make the show script-driven rather than storyboard-driven. Before the second half of season 9, SpongeBob episodes were both written and drawn at the same time, as opposed to now when they are first scripted and then drawn. Changing this process has allowed the show to put more focus on the writing and keep everyone in character. It's also given the storyboard artists a ton of freedom, and has resulted in a lot of really great looking episodes. And this kills 2 birds with 1 stone in regards to fixing the show's problems. While I don't think the series will ever be able to be as consistently good as the first 3 seasons of the show, SpongeBob SquarePants is in great hands right now, and I doubt that it will experience another big downfall again.